Good morning, I'm Harley Schlanger from the LaRouche Organization with your daily video update for March 21st, 2023. Well, 20 years ago today, Lyndon LaRouche delivered a speech at a conference in Germany the day after Bush and Blair launched the war against Iraq. In that speech, he said some things that are extremely important and relevant for consideration today. I'm going to give you some quotes from what he said that day. He said that this situation is a combination of farce and tragedy in progress in Washington, D.C. It's a kind of Shakespearean farce in which the president is playing the role of King Lear, referring to Bush, and the vice president, Cheney, that of Lady Macbeth. But this is a very serious matter. Sometimes fools will do what others will not do. And sometimes he who wishes to have a great crime committed finds a fool to do it because he won't shrink from it, because he doesn't know any better. Like this poor president, Bush, who sincerely does not know what he's doing, has no idea what the reality is in which he's operating. LaRouche continued, "What we have to understand is that in this tragedy, as in all classical tragedies, in all true tragedies in history, the root of disaster is not the leaders. It's not leading institutions. It's the people themselves who bring disaster upon themselves by selecting leaders or by supporting leaders who are the agents of this disaster." That's what Greek tragedy teaches. That's what Shakespeare teaches. That's what Schiller teaches. That's truth. Now, he concluded his presentation by saying that, yes, the leaders are doing bad things, but in a time of crisis, you must examine your beliefs, your axioms. Find the error in yourself. Find that which made you complicit in the evil work done by those leaders. And as I said, yes, they're doing bad things, in many cases on purpose. Some of them do know what they're doing. Others are simply fools, as he said. But they do that because their goals are different than yours. They wish to hold on to power, tenaciously cling to power that they have, and to increase it. They don't care if you can't afford higher priced food or fuel or for health care or rent. Their goal is to ensure that their power is protected, even if to do so produces inflation, the takedown of productive jobs and industry, or war. So the point here is that you must not submit to this. Don't give in to your fears or your pessimism, or the pessimism of those around you. Find a solution and fight for it. That's what LaRouche meant when he called for people to examine why they submit, why they refuse to speak up for what they know is right. Now, at the same conference where LaRouche made these remarks, his wife, Helga Zepp-LaRouche, spoke on the same topic. Her presentation was titled, "How to Reconstruct a Bankrupt World." And what she put forward then is completely relevant for our situation today about a bankrupt world. And what she said in this was 10 years before Xi Jinping launched the full Belt and Road Initiative. She presented a concept of a world land bridge, of cooperation among sovereign nations in development projects at the high end of new technologies, with mutual benefit for the sovereign nations which are cooperating. Now, this is a concept of corridors of development, and this is what Mrs. LaRouche discussed. Now, I'm issuing a challenge to those of you who want to be part of the fight to replace the corrupt leadership in the Western world and take up the task of becoming part of a new leadership which removes those who have bankrupted the economy, who have put us into a dangerous war, and so on. Read her speech, which will be linked below. It's a little long, and it's quite dense, but it's significant. The concepts she's presenting are concepts necessary for the survival of civilization. And I want you to think about your personal responsibility for a better future as you're reading it, and then share the ideas with others. This important thing is the solutions she proposed back then are coming into existence today and have been, in fact, for the last 20 years. Now, why is that? Well, first of all, she started, as did Lyndon LaRouche, with a conjunctural perspective that the economic policies being pursued, beginning with the post-1971 period, but then with a vengeance in the Bush Sr., Clinton, Bush Jr. administrations, were leading to the ongoing accelerating collapse of the system. The banking and financial collapse, the dismantling of the physical economy, the brainwashing of youth around such ideas as the Green New Deal and gender politics. All of this has accelerated over the years, and their solutions, such as bailouts, such as central bank digital currency, and so on, will only make the situation worse, will only deprive us of the freedoms that we need if we're going to organize to defeat this. So first of all, you have the ongoing collapse of the system, which makes this possible. Secondly, you have the growing recognition now that Ukraine cannot win the war against Russia. The idea that Russia can be destroyed and dismantled and looted, which is the thinking of the oligarchs behind the NATO war in Ukraine, it's not going to work. There's a growing recognition that this is a mistake. The Washington Post, the New York Times, Politico have articles in the last days of discussions of military and other officials talking about how this is turning into a disaster, and perhaps now is the time to negotiate a peace. Now, when you think about this, think about Iraq, think about Libya, think about Afghanistan. The long presence of American forces and NATO forces in these countries did not bring about peace, did not solve economic problems, and those wars were brought home to the United States in the form of inflation, food shortages, supply chain breakdowns, dismantling of industry, and so on. So that's the second point, that there's growing recognition now that these policies are clinically insane. Now, what's the third point? There's the emergence of a new set of institutions. We have President Putin and President Xi Jinping meeting in Moscow. You have the Chinese diplomatic initiatives for a rapprochement between Saudi Arabia and Iran, Syria rapprochement with the United Arab Emirates, the establishment of new institutions and development banks which make credit available for physical production, not for speculation. So the alternative to the dollar system, the idea that the dollar system is the only option, there's an alternative which is emerging. And this is one which includes the proposals Mrs. LaRouche made in her speech that include bankruptcy reorganization, and most importantly, join with Russia, China, and the Global South to put this system out of its misery, to put humanity on a different course, a direction of mutual benefit through cooperation. That's the potential that exists today. Now, finally, I'm going to be appending an excellent statement, or linking an excellent statement from Diane Sayre, the candidate for Senate in New York. It's titled "On the Pending Arrest of Donald Trump." And what she talks about there is that the meddling of the Justice Department in the election is one part of the crime. But more importantly is the attempt to divert people from the financial collapse and the failure of the war policy. And what Diane does is present a list of real criminals who should be indicted, who've committed far worse crimes, she said, than those alleged to have been committed by Donald Trump. Among those she names Barney Frank, whose Dodd-Frank bill created the basis for the continuing bailouts, the possibility of bail-ins, and Frank personally, as a board member of Signature Bank, lobbied for the change in some of the requirements so that the bank could blow up into a huge institution which is now having to be bailed out. Also, she names Jerome Powell and Janet Yellen from the Federal Reserve. Now, What I'm asking you to do then is do some work. Challenge the axioms that you believe, whether you think these guys are too powerful, that there's not enough commitment in the population to change it. Let your ideas be challenged and find the solutions. And then join us so that we can jointly reject this tragedy, which otherwise is being thrust upon us. Thank you for joining me. Hopefully you'll do the work, and I'll hear from you on your thoughts and questions over the next days. Hello, thanks for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our videos. Support our independence to produce videos like these. Become a member of the LaRouche organization at thelarouche.org/member. By becoming a member for $25 or more, you'll get special access to the EIR Alert Daily Briefing and Weekly Magazine, which is what I read to stay on top of things.